today. I'm really excited for this topic about the intersection of job search and AI. And I will tell you, when I put this thing on LinkedIn maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was blown away by the response I got of all the signups. And it was a lot of folks had interest, and I think it's a function of the job market and people looking for jobs, but also the rising tide of AI and what it's doing to things and how it affects all things. And so I think the confluence of those two things is what we're talking about today, and it's a big topic, and I'm really excited to jump in. Just a couple housekeeping things. Um, I put you all on mute, and so just to keep the background noise to a minimum, we had about 75 or so people signed up. I'm sure it won't be that many, but still, to have people off of mute would be catastrophic from an auditory perspective. And so I have people on mute. As we go throughout this thing, what I'll ask is you can chat questions, but I'm going to save them till the end, just for the sake of kind of getting through the content. There's a lot to cover. We allocated 90 minutes, and we're going to need the 90 minutes. And so feel free to chat questions, but I will ignore them for the time being. If there's something that's big, you need my help, maybe try and wave your hands, but I probably won't see it. But we'll get to all the questions at the end as best as we can. If I don't have the answer or we don't get to all the questions in time, I will follow up, offline with you directly and get the questions answered as best as we can. If I don't have the answer, I know how to get it. So let's jump in. For those of you who I have not met, my name is Dave Lichtman, and I have a company called Enablematch, which is a recruiting firm that is hyper specialized in sales enablement professionals. We help them get jobs, whether they're full-time or contract. And so I have the best job out there, but a pretty good vantage point on the job market. Having done this for 5.5 years or so, I've observed where people struggle to get jobs and where they have room for improvement. And as AI has come upon us over the past year or so, I've really seen places where AI can be applied to this. And I will also give the following disclaimer. I am no expert in AI. In fact, I will honestly say I'm a student of AI. But I say that proudly, because you don't have to be an expert to dive in and use it and take advantage of it. And that's one of the big takeaways I want you all to have is you don't have to get all and understand LLMs and which all the different tools, doesn't matter. You can jump in and get immediate, quick wins using the AI specifically for your job search. And so again, I only know what I know right now as a relatively new student. So just take that as we go. I always like to start with a little philosophy to kick things off. But life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And I point that out because, with this AI thing that's happening, it is moving really fast. And you will see tools popping up, seems like every week, but if not every week, every month, there's a new AI tool that's out there, or AI being injected in a legacy tool that we've been using for a while. And that's a good thing. But also, it can be overwhelming and daunting. And so it is important to stop and look around and really pause to learn where you can take advantage of it in little ways or big ways. And so I really want to impress upon all of you, just dive in, start to get immersed in some of the tools and practice some stuff on here. And I think if you do it right, you'll find some very immediate value. So before we begin, a couple of things. There are, as I mentioned a second ago, there are so many tools out there that are AI, even specifically for job searches. I didn't want this to become a tools discussion. This is not like G2 of this tool versus that tool. I don't get immersed in that stuff. So rather, what I'm doing here is I'm just going to use ChatGPT. And it's just the very basic one we all have access to. I have a paid version, but it's basically the same thing for the purposes of this. And so I want to make it less about the tool and more about the technology of the tool. So just the AI and how it can help us. And so what I will tell you is there are a lot of tools out there for job search, and they're purpose built for that. And some of them cover the whole span of the job search of the whole life cycle. Some are just for a certain select part, like headshots. interviewing, resume, different slivers of that. I don't have an opinion on any one tool versus the other. They're all great, and I think depending on what you're trying to get better at or trying to get some value from, you can pick a best-in-class tool, the whole gamut, or just use something like Gemini or ChatGPT to do the same thing. So just again, I'm not the tools guy. This is not a tools webinar. This is more about the application of AI. Number two, you'll hear me talk about this idea of like 80-20, or when you start to use the AI, its first response, it'll be about 80% of the way there, sometimes more. What I will tell you is that last 20-ish% is really important. And what you'll see me do throughout the actual demo of this is pushing the AI for a better response, a harsher response, be a bigger critic. You'll hear those phrases a lot as I get into the prompts that I put into it. That last 20% is good to great. And I want to emphasize that whatever you're searching on, whatever you're prompting on, push the AI to give you more clarity, a crisper response, a harsher critique, whatever it is. Push for that last 20% because that's where I found a lot of the real gold lies. So 80-20. The last thing that's related but slightly different, if you guys remember maybe 10 or so years ago when we all got our phones with a GPS device and we're driving around in our car with Waze or whatever navigation thing we're using, and you hear these stories on the news that some person somewhere was looking at their device and said, take a right. They took a right and drove into a lake because they didn't bother looking. I think that's an apt metaphor for what we're doing here, that whatever we get from the AI, it needs to have a sanity check, a human element, just to make sure you're not driving into a lake. And there's stories all over the news and court cases and all the stuff where people have just said, here it is, it's the gospel, and it's come back to bite them. And so I just want to emphasize, in addition to 80-20, you're also not relegating the responsibility in the brains to just the AI. You still have to put your own thoughts into it, make sure it's your own voice, make sure it represents you. That's really important. So please remember that. Another thing I'll tell you as we get into this is I think my last slide or one of my last slides. Most of it today is going to be a demo of in the technology. I'll also tell you, I wanted this to be not slideware. I wanted this to be an actual hands-on thing. So as a result of that, I'm going to be in the tool a lot. I've kind of blown up my screen as best as I can so we all can see it. But you're going to see me kind of copying and pasting just to avoid typing a lot. But as I get responses back from AI, I don't know what it's going to tell me. This is all happening in real time live. And so as we get the responses, we're going to have to kind of read them and to absorb what they're saying to understand what it's giving to us. And so it is the least sexy demo you're ever going to see because we're going to see a lot of words and we're going to do some reading as we go through, but there's no other way to elegantly do this by being in the tool versus just doing screenshots. So forgive me for breaking all the good tenets of good demoing, but I felt like it was the only way to be in the tool and give you a proper walkthrough is by being into the gory details. So mea culpa. So let's dive in. So as I was thinking about this, there's 6 parts of the process that I want to cover here: resume, cover letter, interview prep, interview practice, follow-up emails, and salary negotiation. Now, what I will tell you is the AI can help you with all 6 of these. And there are even some things that are not really covered here, like headshots. And there are even, I think, some tools about how to use AI to find companies who are hiring and stuff like that. I didn't get into that stuff yet. I want to focus on these 6. And in particular, focusing on these 2 here. And the lion's share of the time will be spent on these 2, interview prep and interview practice. And the reason is using the AI on 1, 2, 5, and 6, I saw some value. And I'm going to show you that value, and it's pretty cool. What I saw in 3 and 4, it shocked me, but also from my experience as a recruiter, this is where most folks have more room for improvement than others. Yeah, cover letters can get slightly better, sure, that's all incremental. What I saw for on the interview stuff is it's leaps and bounds. And so we're going to spend the majority of the time on 3 and 4, but we'll touch on all of those things. So that's what's going to happen. Let me set the scene. So I'm gonna exit out of my slides here, and I want to go over a couple of things. So in this scenario, I'm actually this is my resume, and this is not really my resume, but this is what we're going to use for the purposes of the demo. It's an enablement resume, and I'll walk you through it because I want you to understand the background I'm telling the AI as we dive into it. So here I am, and here's my little header up here about who I am. So my last job was at Oracle. I was the senior director of global enablement, and a little bit about what I did there. And down below, I need my glasses. So I transformed their technology, go-to-market model to a go-to-customer model. I did some agile enablement programming to bridge the gap between strategy and tactics. I redesigned the growth strategy framework, developed a launch framework, engagement strategy, okay. Transformed the enablement approach to increase effectiveness of knowledge transfer, the sales advisory board, did a win-loss program to drive best practices sharing. I like that. And I had the budget. So again, I just want to kind of give you some sense of who I am as we get into the thing. Before that, for about a year or so, I was head of global revenue enablement at Mixpanel. And I did a new onboarding program that dropped ramp from 7 months to 3 months. I developed a methodology which increased pipeline coverage and elevated opportunity conversion. I did a negotiation training program, increased ACV by 10%, did less discounting, and shortened deal cycle. So then farther back, by the way, I managed sales, customer success operations, a lot of KPIs here, sales and success. Farther back, I did stuff at a bank and interwoven of ops and enablement, some other stuff back there. But the really most important stuff is my recent history, Oracle and Mixpanel. That's who I am, according to this, what we're going to do. As we get into this, I'm actually going to show you also a job. And so the job we'll be talking about is kind of a generic generic enablement job. It's the field enablement director at Outreach. And so this is an actual job description that I filled this job 4 years ago or so, something like that. But it's an overview of the role. And so what it's going to ask me to do, the job is kind of a generalist enablement leader role. It's understanding the capabilities and gaps across all the teams, understand our usage and leverage of assets, online training courses, battle cards, so there's some content stuff. Partner with sales, marketing, success, and operations. I bet we'll see that again as we get into it. Create an impactful initial onboarding experience, okay, to shorten people's ramp time. Formal and informal learning modalities, so modern learning, okay, so they want modern enablement. Metrics that systematically measure and quantify impact of effectiveness, okay, so that's important to them. Modern, that word again. Communications, rigorous enablement feedback loop. Prioritize sales and success best practices and get it to be part of the DNA. All events, they use Showpad as their LMS. That's going to be important, I suspect. Cross-team work, okay. And leading the organization. Okay, in terms of what they want from my experience, so larger SaaS organizations, field enablement experience, SaaS business acumen, strategic thinking, roll up the sleeves, Six Sigma, they like that. Cross-functional collaboration, okay. And then ADKAR, which is an acronym, they like an approach like that. Okay, okay, and then a couple of methodologies. So again, I wanted everyone to see that just for a sense of who I am and what we're applying for. Let's dive in. So I'm in ChatGPT. I'm on the version 4, not 3.5 was it 3.5? Supposedly the responses are a little bit crisper and more fulsome. I didn't do A/B testing to see how true that is, but that's what it says. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm going to start in a couple ways. So I have here, right here, I have a couple of prompts. I'm going to be pasting a lot in here. And so you're just going to get used to me kind of clicking around a little bit. What I'm going to say in here is, I'm attaching my resume. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to attach my resume right there that we just saw. And let me move all you guys out of the way here. I've attached my resume. Act as an expert resume writer with over 30 years of experience working with job seekers trying to land a senior sales enablement role. So I'm telling you who to be, who to act like. Please suggest improvements to my resume to make it more appealing to hiring managers, recruiters, as well as appealing to ATSs, applicant tracking systems. That's what screens your resumes. Suggestions should be in the following categories: typos and formatting issues, 1, 2, clarity, and 3, role specifics. Please be specific in your feedback to me. So giving it really clear instructions of how to think about what I'm doing and what I'm expecting back from here. Again, there are tools that actually will write your whole resume. I'm just talking about editing. So I have the version you just saw in there. We just went over. I'm saying, hey, make it better, but be a critical job, critical resume writer as you look at it. So I'm going to kind of hit go, and we're going to see what it comes back with. All right. So under typos and formatting, the first section, it says consistency in dates, consistency in bullet points. So some formatting issues. Okay, fine. Be consistent in font size and style. So I think it had some space, something's bolded, something's not bolded. So it's hitting on that stuff. So there's some nice clarity. So my summary section, the opening paragraph could be streamlined to enhance clarity, and it could. So if you look back here, a little bit of yammering on here about what I do here, and so I think it's an astute point to streamline that more and have fewer complex sentences and being clearer about my value proposition. So even if you see in there, the resume had like sales enablement and sales operations, but I've told it, like, I'm a sales enablement person, so it's saying, hey, be clear on your value proposition up front. So that's pretty good call out. Some job descriptions are lengthy and packed with information. Absolutely, there are definitely some long-winded stuff in here that should be pared down. So picked up on that. Break them into more digestible bullet points, key achievements, and specific metrics to highlight my impact. That's a very good call out. Skill keywords. So ATS tools screen for keywords, listening for certain words. So figure out the ones that are most appropriate and pepper them throughout. So good call out for clarity. Now here's the interesting stuff. For role specifics. Highlight leadership and impact. So again, I'm applying for a director level role at Outreach. So this is the head of enablement. So emphasize your leadership roles and direct impact of our initiatives. For instance, state how your actions led to revenue growth, efficiency improvements, or enhanced team productivity. It's touched on throughout, but I didn't read every word of my resume to you, but it wasn't hitting the points hard. And I think the point here is hit those points hard. Expand on measurable outcomes for your projects. And this, I will tell you as a side note, when I get people's resumes or LinkedIn profiles, this is the single thing that I hone in on first for enablement people, that we've got to talk about how our enablement programs drove outcomes. And GPT, the AI here, is calling that out very clearly, and it's spot on. It's a very astute call, and it just knows, however it knows, and it's LLM, it knows it's important for enablement folks to call out their quantifiable achievements and outcomes. And so it's calling it out here. Third thing, relevance to sales enablement. So make sure, I don't have too much fluff in here. So minimize unrelated stuff in my job description. And then technology proficiency. So that's a good call too. Interesting. So call out what tools I've used, CRM and otherwise, to make me a better candidate. So then also here's some general suggestions. Concise professional summary, get better verbs, fix my contact information, and a modern layout. Okay, that's fine. So this is not bad for just giving it a resume and saying, hey, I'm applying for an enablement role. Give me some feedback. And so again, 80-20 rule, but not too bad. What I'm gonna do now is say, okay, how would I tailor this resume if I'm applying for this role? And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paste the job description from the outreach job. I'm just gonna paste that bad boy right in there. And I could have pasted my resume in here, by the way. You can paste a resume, you can paste anything. Because ChatGPT takes attachments, it's a little bit more elegant, a little easier for me. But I could have pasted my entire resume before and done the exact same thing. All right. So how would you tailor it if I were applying for this role at outreach? Now let's see what it says. All right. So highlight, so field enablement SaaS focus. So interesting. So what was my last job? It was Oracle, not really a SaaS company necessarily. So emphasize where I have SaaS experience, building those teams, supporting sales, customer success, and the technology deployment. So if you remember back on the job description, it mentioned that I'm supporting sales and customer success and deploying tools. So that's pulls from that. Showcase my ability to develop and evolve modern, remember that word from before, modern audience-focused content, okay? Specific examples, creating online training courses, battle cards, and leveraging intranet content, okay? These responses, by the way, as I kind of prepared for today, they've been different every single time, but some similar themes. And so I'm learning this and seeing this as you are for the first time in some ways. So cross-functional collaboration, good call out. If you remember, in the JD, it talked about, I think it was RevOps and marketing, and so a few other stakeholders that I work with. So show in my resume, my experience working with sales, marketing, and success teams to craft scalable enablement programs. So that's a very good call out. Again, now in here, quantify my achievements. So we mentioned this before, but include the metrics for my accomplishments, because in the job description for outreach, it said, mentioned metrics a couple times. Use of technology and tools, so it even calls out Showpad here. So detail your experience with LMS tools like Showpad, okay? Then align with the role-specific needs. Sales is a science. I think that was a phrase from the JD. Illustrate my analytical and process skills by discussing how I've applied sales as a science to design metrics that measure effectiveness. That's a big thing these days, is like making enablement more of a science, getting it to be more objective and less subjective. Feedback loops and continuous improvement, yes, please. And leadership development, so team leadership, community and group involvement. So again, this was called out on the JD about the Sales Enablement Society and Modern Sales Pros. Those are organizations that enablement folks belong to. If I belong to them, call it out in the resume. Not finally, customizing the format and the content. So nice professional summary, keywords and phrases, so a little bit of rehashing there, and then additional qualifications. So it really kind of turned the dial up on the areas of which we've been speaking. We saw in the first iteration, but we got a little more with that last 20%. Now, here's one of my favorite things to do is push it just a little bit harder. All right, ChatGPT, what else? I want to get this particular job. What additional tweaks would make me stand out, and make me twice as compelling as a candidate? Like, I'm asking it, like, bring out your big guns here. I don't know what's going to come back with, but let's see. Include brief case studies, interesting. It highlights my outcomes. Okay, that's interesting. Highlight my soft skills, additional trainings and certifications. So it's basically throwing in the kitchen sink here, like whatever else you got here, just do it. We talked about the keywords before. That's not that different. Oh, now it's saying, if you have recommendations or testimonials, interesting. A digital portfolio, also interesting. So this is, and then, prepare for interviews. That's what's called foreshadowing, kids, because that's where we're going soon. That's gonna be a very big thing of making sure that you get prepared. Oh, interesting. I haven't seen this before. Network with current outreach employees or leadership on LinkedIn to get insights and build relationships. All right. So these are pretty good things. But again, going back to the principle of that last 20%, we pushed GPT a couple times, like, all right, now tailor it for the resume. Now, like, I really want this job, make me twice as compelling. So you kind of saw the iterative process. That's how you're going to interact with the AI, is with this iterative prompts that you can do. But this is a pretty good start to get a resume kind of ready to go to apply for a job. All right, so let's continue this same process here. So go back to my prompts here. So let's talk about a cover letter. So I'm going to copy this, paste this in here. So still using the attached resume when I gave it before, write a cover letter for the role I just pasted, highlighting my experience with respect to the most important qualifications in the job description, and talk about how my contributions will be a great addition to the role. Now, as this is pulling up, cover letters are, for some, a little bit passe and a little bit antiquated, but they have a place. And if it's being forwarded by an internal person, they might be of value. The more senior the role you're going for, depending on who you're sending this to, it might become more relevant. Like if you're going to a CEO or CXO, this kind of thing might become important. And spitting out a reasonably good cover letter. Just highlighting what I did at Oracle, highlighting what I did at Mixpanel. I'm drawn to Outreach's commitment to data-driven strategic approach. So it's pulling from what they're looking for in here. Okay. I collaborate with sales, marketing, and success. That's not there by chance. So, all right, not bad. Okay. I might say, hey, this feels a little long-winded for me. Can you make it more concise and also tailor the language for a younger, pardon this phrase, hipper company? Anyway, let's see how it changes now. It may be minimal, but let's see what it does. Because I did feel like it was a long-winded cover letter, depending on the role you're applying for. So the paragraphs, I could scroll back up, but I don't want to make you guys sick. But they're shorter, a little more concise. And I think the language here is different. I thrive. I'm passionate. Those feel like the words that probably changed when I said be a little bit younger, a little bit hipper. I'm enthusiastic. So it modified, and you could iterate X number of more times, as many times as you want to, until you feel like it's closer to your voice. So interesting on the resume. All right. So again, that's the part of the process that I was saying it's incremental value. You could all write a cover letter. This just saves you time. Might help you not miss some things, but it's incremental. Let's go down here. Interview prep. This is where it gets interesting. So I'm going to take this and let's see what we do now. So let's continue this using my previously shared resume and job description. So same job, same person. I have an interview for the role we've been discussing. Analyze the company's website and do the following. Number one, I want a summary of the work that they do. Two, why this role will be important to their strategy. Three, connect the value shown in my resume to the work that they do in the job required. And four, give me talking points that I can bring up in the interview to show both knowledge about the company and my value to the role. So again, what to do, and then I'm telling it how to give me the feedback in these four specific areas. Thinking. So a lot of you probably know who Outreach is and what they do. So sales execution platform. Okay, that's who they are. Why is this role important to their strategy? So this position is responsible for developing top-tier enablement programs that equip sales, SDRs, and success with skills and tools. So for some of these things, you might know the company and you might be clear on the role, but sometimes it's a little more opaque, right? You don't really know how it fits in. So sometimes this can be helpful insight. Connecting my resume to the role, this section right here. My extensive background in enablement, particularly in scaling enablement frameworks and digital transformation initiatives, aligns well. Oracle and Mixpanel leading teams to drive engagement. Okay, good. Talking points. So let's see what it says here. Number one, platform utilization. Discuss your understanding of how outreach platform integrates various sales functions. Right, you need to talk to you that you understand what they do. So make sure you hit on that. Smart. Number two, data-driven enablement. We've touched on that before, but absolutely, they care about that. It said in the job description. So you need to come talking about how you run your enablement shop in a data-driven manner. The collaboration, so we know where that comes from. That was part of the JD about these different functions. So be ready to talk about that. Modern learning techniques, there you go. It keyed on those words from the JD about modern. So how do I, as a candidate, leverage modern learning modalities and techniques to help the sellers? Finally, innovation. This is interesting. Discuss my proactive approach to sales enablement and how I've incorporated innovative practices to keep pace with market changes. Right. Okay. So how? Right. I mean, this was a JD from a few years ago. A newer one might say AI a lot in there. But so how is technology, how is enablement evolving and innovating over time? So good question. That's not bad at all. Let's do some pushing here. So I agree with your points, but I think you're being too nice. Please be twice as insightful. I want to push it. So to truly make an impact, it's crucial to delve into experiences and how it aligns with them. Okay. So advanced integration of sales technology. Okay. So talk about my expertise in integrating enablement tools. Okay. AI powered selling. Okay. Explain my approach to utilizing these tools to streamline stuff. Okay. That's a good point. Strategic enablement framework development. Okay, so outline how I build scalable, adaptable enablement programs informed by data. Okay, with you on that. Interesting, which is crucial for outreach as they lead in turbulent market conditions. It's pretty self-aware. Cross-functional synergy and impact. Examples of how I've successfully driven enablement initiatives that require deep collaboration across multiple departments. So be ready to talk about that. Customer-centric enablement approaches. I think I saw that in the JD. I can't remember for sure. But how my customer-first enablement strategies have led to increased effectiveness. All right, and how I would apply those at outreach. Talk about innovation. All right, fine, we get that. Feedback loops. I swear that was probably in here somewhere. Not there, in here somewhere. I feel like I saw somewhere in here. Maybe I didn't. I can't remember. But feedback mechanism, okay, to refine it. Regardless, it's a good best practice. All right, so that's pretty good. So this is interesting. I like this prompt a lot. So given my resume and experience, where are my skill and experience strengths and deficiencies? Furthermore, what roadblocks and challenging questions might I anticipate when interviewing for this role? So, like, what are we doing here? Like, we want to get some ideas, but like, I want the hard questions from my computer where I can practice and think about it versus when I'm in the hot seat. And so I'm saying, hey, give me the worst you got. Like, I want to be ready for this interview. And so let's see what it comes back with. And honestly, as I look at this, I care a little bit less about my strengths and more about my perceived deficiencies. But let's see what it has to say. So it likes my leadership and enablement. Fine. Thank you very much. My experience with technology. Okay. Cross-functional collaboration. Okay. I mentioned data-driven decision-making also, so that's great. Potential skill deficiencies. So here we go. Give it to me. So familiarity with latest sales enablement tools. Okay. So in this job description was from this resume was from a couple of years ago. And so it's not talking about modern tools in there very much. And so that's a potential thing where a modern cutting edge SaaS company might be looking for tools. And so it's a good call out. So if it's not on my resume, I got to be prepared for a question that might come up about it. Modern learning techniques. Yes, please. So this is an interesting one. So if you remember, my last job was at Oracle. And so this is a real world thing that when people see Oracle or certain older traditional companies, they think stodgy and they think, this person might struggle in a nimble, fast-paced startup environment. And so even the AI is picking up on that, which is impressive. So it's saying, hey, you might get a question about, hey, you were at Oracle and that's whatever it is, like 50,000 people. How can you relate to a 5,000, 4,000 person company? And so that's a very smart, insightful call out. And whether it's right or whether it's wrong, that will be the elephant in the room. And the AI is picking up on that. So very cool. So anticipated challenging interview questions. How have you previously measured the success of enablement programs? Sure. Give me an example of how you've implemented a new technology or tool across sales teams. That's a great, valid question. Describe a time when a sales strategy failed. Ouch, but that's a good one. What did you learn? What strategies would you employ to ensure buy-in from the sales team for new enablement tools? That question is gold. And I would say invest in that answer a lot because that's a key one. How do you stay updated with the latest sales enablement trends and technologies? So you remember they say Sales Enablement Society, they said modern sales pros. So they're looking for, are you a learner here, right? So interesting. So those are not bad, challenging questions that one might get. So, but what do we do here? We go the 20%, right? Oops. So, hey, you're being too nice. Be a harsher critic. It's my favorite phrase with AI. Be a harsher critic. Well, here we go. It's highlighting my deficiency in tools. Okay. Adaptability, startup culture. There you are again. That's the whole Oracle thing. Yeah, here you go. Your background, this is so smart. Your background in large structural organizations like Oracle might be seen as a mismatch for the fluid, fast-paced environment of a startup like Outreach. That's what I just said a second ago. And this is exactly how hiring managers think about people who come from big companies. So that's insightful. You show good achievements, but not explicitly demonstrating how these can be directly transferred to unique challenges of Outreach's program. So we're not solving on my resume the problems that Outreach is looking to solve. Okay. Then trends. Okay. Anticipated tough questions and how to address weaknesses. Oh, so telling you how to answer. Okay. So can you discuss your experience with the latest technologies with AI? And here's your coaching. Be honest about your experience working with it and mention any relevant courses or certs you plan to pursue. All right. How have you adapted this strategy? Have you adapted your strategies to work in smaller, more dynamic teams? And then here's some coaching for you. Please provide specific examples of where your enablement programs have directly influenced sales metrics. If you don't have any, you're going to have a hard time. Prepare concise case studies. Okay, good. So those are pretty good. And I'm kind of blown away by how it asks the questions that I might have asked. It finds the weaknesses I might have found. I feel like I'm a little bit out of a job here. That's really good stuff. So again, just to take a step back for a second, this is the interview preparation stage. And this is where we really want to think through where what our relative strengths are and weaknesses for the job, and workshop these answers. Make sure we have good responses. Where are blind spots? Where are the things that we aren't prepared for? Because I think all of us at some point have been in an interview situation and we're like a deer in the headlights because they asked a really hard question. We're like, crap, I don't have an answer. And that's a darn good question. And we're stammering. And so this is, you can workshop those things and kind of work through them privately and to get prepared for going public, going for the actual interview. So pause on that and say, I think that's pretty good stuff there. And again, as a recruiter, again, I didn't write these answers. This is all ChatGPT. They're pretty spot on for the feedback that people give candidates that I see all the time. All right, we're doing great in terms of time. We're about halfway there. Let's keep going. We're having fun now. So I'm going to now get ready for the interviews a little bit more. So I'm actually going to just, I don't know if I have to do this. I'm going to reattach my resume just in case. Sometimes after a while, it kind of forgets it, but I'm just going to reattach it because why not? So I'm still interviewing for the same role previously shared. Please give me a list of the most common questions asked in the interview for this role and the best ways to answer those questions based on a book like The Science and Art of Interviewing by these two people. So you'll notice there's overlap between the last section and this section, acknowledged, but it's kind of us teasing out all the possible questions. And even this one, giving it a specific model to look after, like this book and how it thinks about interview questions. What kind of things would I anticipate from that? And so let's see if we can tease out some new nuggets here that we didn't get before. Hello? There we go. All right, so drawing on insights from that book. And by the way, there are a lot of sources you can cite. Just try it. If it knows it, it'll pull in the knowledge and the framework from it. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but it's worth a try if there's a specific methodology or framework that you like. What's your approach to developing a sales enablement strategy? It's fine. Example of how you've successfully implemented a new tool. That's overlap from the last section, so it's a good one, obviously. Describe a time, that's such a cliche kind of question, when you've had to overcome resistance to a new enablement program. Yes, please. I'd be ready for that question every single day of the week. Your metrics, absolutely. But what it's doing here, I don't know if you notice this, it's giving you the strategy for the answer. So be specific about the KPIs you track, such as ramp up time reduction, increase in productivity, improvement in win rates, and connect these metrics to business outcomes. So this is the best practices coming from the book. It's we're going to do these things and connect them to the outcomes. That clear connection is everything. So there's some good nuggets in here. And how do you ensure that programs are adaptable to changes in the market industry? All right, so stakeholder feedback. Okay, so talk about that stuff. Preparing for potential challenges, technical prowess, culture fit by big company versus small company, and continuous learning. Okay, so a little bit of overlap, but I think thematically we're seeing some things here that we know we got to be prepared to talk on. And by the way, you can always say like, I'll take this question, say, great questions. What would be the best practice answer for this question? I'm going to paste that question. How do you ensure the enablement programs you design are adaptable to changes in the market industry? So here you go. And it's giving you an answer. And here's an introduction, then here's the detail. First, I establish a continuous learning environment with the enablement program. This involves regular training sessions that are updated with latest training techniques, market information. So it's spoon feeding me the answer here. And again, don't drive into a lake. You want to make sure that this reflects reality and you and your world. And so, 80/20 and don't drive into a lake. And so it's still going the last part of the response here, it looks like. But these are things to think about. So in addition to it giving you the questions, it can also give you the answers. And they're not bad. I'm not reading verbatim, but they're not too shabby here. And here's our overall coaching. So convey that your approach is proactive rather than reactive, how you anticipate changes and adapt. All right, good enough. All right, it's gonna finish that. So let's get a little more specific here. Have some fun. I got the interview scheduled. I'm interviewing with the CMO and CRO for this role. Considering their distinct points of view, see, I'm giving it some coaching, consider each of the points of view. Please anticipate questions they'd ask me and what you would recommend highlighting to them. Secondarily, please provide me with 5 thoughtful and specific questions I should ask, I'll say each of them, that would help me stand out. Okay, so a CMO, marketing perspective, and a revenue perspective. So here's what they would care about. How to ensure that your enablement materials reflect our brand values and messaging consistently. All right, what to highlight there. Let's come back down here. Okay, marketing sales alignment. So can you give me examples of how you've previously aligned sales enablement activities with marketing campaigns? It's a valid question. What strategies would you implement to improve lead conversion rates through sales enablement? I don't love that question, if I'm being honest. I don't know if we always get into lead conversions, but maybe through coaching of the SDRs. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. All right, for the CRO, how do you measure the ROI of enablement initiatives? Yes, please. How would you align enablement programs with our strategic revenue goals? Yes. And so again, it's giving you coaching here of like, describe your approach to integrating corporate revenue targets to what you do as enablement. How do you scale things in an enablement organization? All right, so questions for a CMO. How do you see marketing and sales intersecting over time? What are the biggest challenges you foresee maintaining brand consistency? All right, whatever. How marketing and sales teams have collaborated. How we worked together in the past. What could be improved? It's a good question. What marketing technologies are currently in place that enablement might intersect with, like any sort of content tools? Maybe have Gong for messaging. How does the company measure success of marketing content and its impact on sales effectiveness? And questions for the CRO. So these look pretty good. Pretty good. So the AI really took my prompts, my cues, and gave me back really what I asked for. So those are pretty strong things that you could be fine walking into any CMO and CRO and asking those questions, and you would not look silly. And they're definitely not like, why you're doing the company generic, or what makes a person successful here generic. Like those are pretty lame and not company specific. So these seem a little more, how do we support outreach's growth, right? It's specific to them a little bit. But I don't think they're good enough. So I'll say, all right, 20%. Some of these seem generic, which they actually do. Can you improve them and make them more company specific? I could say outreach specific, but it already knows who I'm talking about. All right, for the CMO. Okay, so you can see what it's doing here. So considering outreach's emphasis on integrating AI into the sales process, which they do, how do you envision the role of sales enablement evolving in better support of marketing initiatives? Okay, so you see what it did there? Outreach has a robust platform for engagement. How can we leverage marketing content? Oops, regenerate that. Got a little error there. Not sure if I did that or not.
Hey, Dave, do you mind if I interrupt and ask a question?
Sure.
Oh, did you not want to? Do you want to say?
Sorry,
I missed the beginning. So
sorry.
I've already said that.
I said hold it if you can.
I can.
Okay.
All good.
You can chat it or hold it till the end. At the end, I'll have a lot of time for questions, but there's just so much to get through. I want to make sure I plow through it first, Lindsay. Cool.
Totally fine. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, ordinarily, by the way, I do tons of check-ins and questions, but for this particular session, it was a little bit harder to do it that way. All right. So question for the CMO. All right. Outreach is focus. Outreach here. Recent successful campaign at outreach in theory. All right. So these are these are company specific, like I asked it to do. Okay. So it really took my cues. And so as an objective person, I think this set of questions is 3 times better than the first set it came back with because it's so company specific. And so that last 20%, I think, gave us some real gold here that we can take advantage of. All right. So that's that. So let's just have a little fun here. I did this last night just for fun. So, wow, I'm also interviewing with the CEO, or with CRO and CMO. This is now the CEO. Do the same thing for him or her. So what the CEO cares about. So you expect higher level questions, right? So how do you envision the future of sales enablement outreach as we to maintain our market leadership? Okay, good. How do you align your personal leadership style with outreach's core values? It's not bad, I guess. Not my favorite, but it's okay. What impact do you see in the sales enablement function having on our overall business objectives beyond just the sales targets? That's smart. Example of how you manage the transformation or change within the organization. Interesting. Long-term vision. All right, next 5 years. That's a very CEO level thing. Wait, those are, oh, wait, those questions for me? Oh, those are from, sorry, those are from the CEO, my bad. So, okay, then now my questions for the CEO. What are the most critical challenges outreach will face in the coming years, and how can enablement help them? How do you foresee integration of things like AI in light of their growth ambitions? Yes, they have them. How do you see the enablement team evolving? So you're seeing really higher level and precise questions, both from the CEO and to the CEO. Good. So those are pretty good. So that's that. So that's and then I can ask it again. How would you respond to this question? I could ask that of any question I wanted to. Okay, so that's that first part. So this next part, we're gonna get into something that kind of blew me away is interview practice, and we'll do this kind of live, and this is a little bit precarious. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to use my microphone. I'm going to ask the AI for some interview questions, kind of like we got here. So give me 4 or 5 questions, and I'm going to answer, and I want feedback on my answer. And we're going to truly do like a role play. But I want to give you the following caveat. Siri on my MacBook Pro sometimes is slow to dictate and catch up, and so it's a little clunky. The clunkiness is with the MacBook Pro, not with the AI, and so sometimes it'll truncate my verbal response. I might have to type a little bit, but we'll get through it. But I want to. It's a pretty cool thing that we can we can do together. But let's interview. Here we go. I'm going to skip that for a second and then go here. Actually, before I get to that, sorry, I forgot an essential thing. So I want 3 stories to tell in my job interview. Use my resume and the JD to develop them using the STAR method, right? Situation, task, action, results. Like it's a good framework. So give me some stories to talk about. This is essential. And by the way, I coach on this incessantly. So having your arsenal of stories that you're ready to talk about when you walk in an interview. Do not walk in cold. Know your stories, practice your stories, make sure they have a nice arc to them and they hit all the right points. And so what it's doing here is it's going in here and taking from my resume stuff. And I gave it in the prompt. I said, hey, just you pull what you can. It might interpolate a little bit if it doesn't have some stuff. I'm not sure what it's going to do. But here's what I did. So situation, task, action, result. Okay, so you're seeing it's is taking one of my Oracle stories and sticking the star format. Here's one for Mixpanel, same thing. Okay, so how I overhaul the sales process. So that's a good framework, good structure with the star method. Here's a third one. That's fine. But what I'm going to do here is going to say, hey, but we don't talk like that. We don't say, here's the situation, here's the task, here's the action. So what I'm going to say is, these are great. Keeping those key points, make it more conversational. So in theory, it took all the things from my Oracle Star story and made it into a story. So at Oracle, we were facing a challenge with our outdated sales enablement approach. It just wasn't keeping up. So this is how you talk, right? It's more conversational. And again, you want to tweak until it's your words, your language, your way of speaking. Here's one for the Mixpanel one, and then we'll do the first Republic Bank one after that. But you can see how we're iterating to get to what we want, right? And so I got the content. I could have jumbled this all into one prompt, but I did it this way to kind of show you how we iterate and how we prompt it to think until we get to what we want. And so you can craft the perfect prompts that incorporate everything, or you kind of break it apart. It's kind of like a formula in Excel. You can kind of do in cell 1, in cell 2, cell 3, one computes off the other, or build one mile-long formula. Same idea. Sometimes it's easier to kind of break it apart so you can kind of parse it and tweak as you go. All right, so we did that. We made them conversational. Okay, so now here's where it gets really interesting. And this is me flying without a net here on a demo. So I'm interviewing for the same role we've been discussing. Please ask me, I'm actually going to say 3 questions just for the sake of, we have just a little bit of time left. 3 questions relevant for the role. I'd like you to ask me each question one by one, and then pause and let me respond. You can ask follow-up questions if my response necessitates it. At the end, I would like you to evaluate critically the quality of my responses, both in substance and in style. All right, so that's a very specific thing. So again, part of what's clunky about this, if I'm being really honest, is I have to talk so slowly for dictation purposes. It loses my ability to kind of talk and tell a story like I normally would. I could type in the responses, but it's kind of fun to talk. So let's see what happens. All right. So let's have fun. Let's have it read this.
Great. Let's start with the first question related to the Field Enablement Director role at Outreach. Question 1. Considering your previous experience with implementing sales enablement strategies, can you describe a specific instance where you introduced a new tool or process? Please focus on how you ensured its adoption among a diverse sales team and the impact it had on the team's performance.
All right.
Please take your time to respond and let me know when you're ready for the next question.
She's so polite. Okay, so let's see how this goes. I'm making up this answer, but let's see how it goes. When I was at Oracle, I rolled out Gong to the entire sales organization, period. We found that all the sales reps were not talking about our message and our products in a consistent way, period. We felt that it was impacting our win rates and our pipeline generation, period. After I acquired the tool, I first worked with all the sales leadership team and a subset of the frontline sales managers to go over the use cases and what its value was to them, period. We practiced using it for their calls and also how to get feedback. See, it truncated me there. Do that. Try the last part again. We thought it was bacteria win rates, not win rates, pipeline generation. Where I was, this is the one glitch on this whole thing. So after we acquired it, I worked with the leadership team and a subset of the frontline sales managers to test out the tool, both for recording and giving feedback, period. After a few weeks of feedback and testing, we then rolled it out to the broader sales organization, period. We also included some coaching sessions and gold standard calls on pipeline review sessions each week on each team, period. We found that reps loved hearing each other and learning from the best, period. And in doing so, it got people over their hesitation to be recorded and be listened to by their peers, period. Overall, adoption was around 90% within the first 6 months. All right, let's see how this goes. You saw how it's kind of awkward as I talk into it. Oh, I don't want my actually, well, I didn't want my feedback yet, but it's giving, I have to fix the prompt, but it should have given me feedback at the end, not right now. So how did I do? I clearly outlined the problem. Nice, good job, Dave. And how Gong was introduced as a solution, detailing the testing phase. All right. Adoption strategy, okay. Style, conversational and clear, despite the glitch. Areas for improvement, thank you, please. While you mentioned the tool's adoption rate, expanding on how it specifically impacted win rates in pipeline generation would have strengthened my response. Absolutely. That's a very good call out, right? So what? Why did this matter? Who cares about adoption rates? That was part of the question. I didn't connect it to business value. So see how what I did there is a very good call out on my, decent response, but not all the way there. This is good to great. So quantifying these improvements in these areas, if you can, is a better picture of the effectiveness. All right. Question 2. Sales enablement often does close collaboration with multiple departments. Discuss a project where we had to coordinate across a diverse team to launch Enable initiative. Okay. All right. Wish me luck on this one. Here we go. While I was, let's try that again. While I was at Mixed Panel, this affected everybody from sales, marketing, customer success, and even sales engineers. This was a complete change to our sales process, period. So I worked with the leaders of each function to understand the impact on how they're going to sell and support the customers with this new framework, period. In doing so, I got their input up front on both the selection of Medic as well as the rollout to Medic and use cases for each of them, period. Then as we rolled it out, we worked very closely with a pilot group from each team to get it completely dialed in, period. All right. See if any other egregiously painful and awful typos like that one. Okay, so again, and to be clear, this is not a great response. I know I left out, there's no numbers in here. It was so-so. So let's see how it comes back to me. This is a panic group, it's a pilot group. All right. Clarity, engagement. All right, impact in results. So we discussed strategy and that stronger conclude. Okay, so improvements on the metrics, like the outcomes. So what? Okay. It would enhance your answer to specify particular challenges encountered during the project. Yes, absolutely. That is a good thing. Okay. Should we do one more? Okay. I'll quickly do this one too, just for the sake of time. I want to leave 15 minutes for questions. Actually, I'm going to skip this one so we can do other stuff too. But you guys get the idea. You can do as many questions as you want to. Whether it's questions from up above or ones you ask for here, and then workshopping the responses. So there's good stuff there. Let me do that, and then also you can ask to be even harsher critic. This is always fun. Just really quickly, let's just do this because it's fun to do. And while it's thinking, I'm going to go to the next one. So I like this question, this prompt. Please take all my responses and rewrite them to show me what better responses would sound like. Use my resume for specifics as needed, and when you don't have them, just fill in the gaps. So I'm not going to do this prompt now just for the sake of time, but you see how we're kind of workshopping all these things. And if we're being honest, in the enablement world, there is, kind of a lot of obvious questions, a lot of FAQs you're going to get about programs you've done, resistance. Those are all kind of low-hanging fruit for interview questions. And so you want to make sure you can nail those things like really, really, really well. Okay, so we're going to skip this part. So make it more coaching. All right. This is also an interesting one, by the way. I came across this from a friend who I think is even on the call. I'm going to skip this part now. I guess I have to do it again. So in the world today, a lot of people have been fired. Sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for not for a good reason. But people have lost jobs. And sometimes it comes up, hey, Dave, you looks like you were only at Mixpanel for a year. What's the story behind that? And sometimes it's a little bit awkward, right? Sometimes you're like, yeah, they just flat out fired me. Sometimes you're saying, no, they had a reduction in force. It was COVID. It was the economy, a variety of reasons. But how you respond to those awkward questions matters, right? Otherwise, becomes something that becomes this big, becomes this big. And so this is a great place to workshop those answers. So, hey, I'm preparing for my job interview. I'm concerned about the fact that I was fired at my last company after only 7 months. In my industry, sales enablement, that can be perceived negatively. In truth, my boss, the CRO, was difficult to work with and fired several of us. I want to test out the following response and would love critical feedback to diffuse the situation. So if you already have a response, put it in here, see how it goes. But here I'm just going to say, like, can you give me a gold standard response that might help me overcome this situation? Oh, I have to wait till it finishes the last prompt. Okay. So, I think it should give you some coaching as well as a response here, but let's see what it does. Yes, it can be tricky. Thank you for being empathetic for AI. So briefly acknowledge the situation. So in my previous role, I was part of a group that was let go after the new CRO restructured the team. It was certainly a surprise, but also gave me a valuable opportunity to reflect on my professional journey and areas for growth. All right, part 2, shift the focus to the termination. So this experience taught me the importance of adaptability and clear communication within a team. It also highlighted the value of aligning with a company vision and leadership. Then finally discuss, how I use experience as a stepping stone. So it kind of gave me an arc to the story. Not bad. So, okay. So those are not bad. Can you put that into a concise narrative for me to see? Question mark. Just I want to see it in one place versus being broken up into sections. And again, whatever it gives me back, I could say, please make it sound more professional. Please make it sound more casual. Please, you can give it some tweaks until it gets closer to your voice and what feels authentic for you. You can even say, like, I was flat out fired for cause. Here's what I did wrong. how would I talk about that? Like, you can be that authentic, and it can help you mold that response into a thing that's not so objectionable. So there's really good stuff in here. The other thing that's really good at workshopping, by the way, is the about me. So, hey, hey Nina, tell me about yourself. Like that, I've had interviews that I've done where it's a 30-minute interview, and that question takes up literally 22 of the 30 minutes. And so having a nicely crafted session and like a concise session response, having a nice concise response will help you with this. So you're not the 22 minutes answering this very simple question. So that's that. In terms of prompts, so hey, I just had an interview with Jody, whoever that is, hiring manager. Please, I'm not going to do this just for the sake of time. Please include how interesting her org structure is, unique opportunity to learn more, and our shared love of Peloton. So something personal that might have come out of that, put that in the thank you note. So that's easy thing. That's low hanging fruit. I'll touch on this for a second about salary negotiation. This is not perfectly well formed, but it's not so bad. So I go in here and so say I got a job offer. I did great in my interviews. I'm a job seeker with, I'll say 10 years of experience in sales enablement. I'm applying for the role of VP of enablement. What are the important factors to consider while negotiating my salary? And after this, we'll move over to Q&A as best as we can. So some tips, they're kind of generic, but all right. Salary bonuses, okay. By the way, the gender salary gap is a very real thing in enablement. So for the women out there, you got to push hard on this stuff because it's a real thing. As one who sees the numbers, there is a gap, especially as you get more senior, the gap becomes bigger. Lower levels, it's not as big, but it's there. Just giving you some stuff here, and I can say, hey, these seem generic. Can you give me more specific? So we could iterate on that. So you get the point. All right, so that was the main part of what I wanted to show you. I hope you all had some good takeaways from the presentation, and there's some real applicable things you got here. So as we leave here, number one, just get started. You don't have to be an expert. I'm not an expert, but I found all these use cases that were very powerful. So please just get started and play with the technology and find applications for you. Number two, remember the best practices. About 80-20, pushing the AI, double checking it. Like, make sure you're doing the best stuff and keep iterating until you find answers that are authentic and accurate for you. And finally, leverage best-in-class tools where appropriate, whether it's for interviewing or resumes or headshots. Leverage them because they're out there. And if I can be of any help to any of you out there, please reach out. I'm happy to try. Thanks, everybody.